Benny Scott recalls that from earliest times, Africans in Macon have had a mind for business.
Well, there were several blacks downtown. The tailors, there were 4 black tailors downtown. There was a gentleman named Henry Williams who had a restaurant about half block from City Hall on Poplar Street. And black and white ate in there, but he had a partition where he separated the whites. They were in the front and the blacks in the rear. But most people who ate there came from other counties, farmers, who came in every weekend to shop or during the week to shop. And you had a black drayman who had these horses, fine horses and wagons, who were parked at the corner of Poplar and 3rd Street. And later on they moved up to Mulberry and 3rd when they became mechanized. But when they had the horses, they would park, and at that time, most people were continuously moving, and they'd go down there and get those draymen to move them, or to move a trunk, or move a box, and all the stores downtown used them for hauling their wares, And we had leather shops there on Pop Street and several stores with W.T. Barnes worked in one of those leather shops. About 60 years he was down there, and they made saddles and things of that nature. They had 2 or 3 blacksmith shops. We had so many businesses on Cotton Avenue. They started right at City Hall there, across the street from City Hall. It was Mose Myers Casino. And that was unusual in that day because he was considered one of the leading men at that time in Macon. And right next door to him was the Melville Lodge, number 555, the BPOW Elks.
Right.
And Ed Carver Sr. was the exalted ruler at that time. And my brother, Leonard Scott, owned the tall building right across the street from City Hall, and he owned the building up in the corner of the alley up from where the Elks were. And he ran a cafe, James Cafe, and a package store there for a number of years. Now, the Knights of Pythians was a black Masonic lodge. They built what was known then as the Pythian Temple. And it was a 5-story building, and most of our insurance companies and doctors were in that building. There was big business on Poplar Street, 3rd, Mulberry, and Broadway. And old man Douglas made Broadway the ideal place to be. See, everybody, when they got off work, they went to Broadway. He had a bank, a hotel, pool room, a shoe shop, barber shop, and a hotel annex. And he employed a lot of people.
Yes.
In addition to that, he owned about 50 houses out in the various communities that required a lot of attention, and he employed a lot of people out in the community. I went to the theater every day, 6 days a week. I'd stay in there from the time it opened to the close. They had vaudeville every day. They would have a show would come out of New York on Sunday night, and it would perform through Wednesday night. They would leave and a new show come on Wednesday and stay through Saturday night. People would be down there in mass every day, and they'd come down there to greet their friends, and then there would be hundreds of people from other counties, especially on Friday and Saturday. You didn't see many lazy people. Everybody worked. If they didn't work in service, you know, out in the white community, they had a job downtown somewhere. And even though it was just a porter or maybe a maid or something like that, but there were plenty of jobs available because most of the businesses down there were booming. As our folks stated, when they moved the blacks out, then the businesses died.
I'm the third generation, so my son, see, would be 4 generations. We've been in business for 107 years. My grandfather, he grew up, you know, right here in Macon. He started out working at a furniture factory, and then he had to send his children through school and those type of things. So he branched out on his own, and he was originally down where the auditorium, right across from the auditorium, and he started out there in a shed there. See, that was horse and wagons, drays back in that period. You see, and he kept a good horse and kept his dray ready to go all the time. And back in those days, there was a lot of packing and shipping going on, as well as upholstering, you see. And we did packing and shipping way back in that time. And everything had to be crated in wooden crates, not like it is today. So, and it was shipped by the railroad, you see. So he worked that way, though, and then we made awnings just like we're doing now, and did upholstering, but it featured upholstering more than anything else because, you know, it was a year-round business, you see. My dad worked on the railroad for a while, and then he decided he would come on back to Georgia, you see, and go in with my father. I started at 12 years old, actually. I just grew up around it, you see. And I was around with the workers all the time, you see. And I do remember, you know, when everything was done by dray, you see. But then, you know, later on, we got the truck, you see. And it was a different situation here from most towns. Now, you see most towns, back then, the businesses were across the tracks. You go to a certain side of town, but Macon has always been where businesses are everywhere, all over town. If you take Poplar Street down there, we had a lot of black businesses all down there. L.J. May had a real estate company. Henry Williams had a big cafe, see. And then, of course, right across the street over there, you know, Waldorf, I mean, the white fella, you see, but what I'm saying is the businesses were right together, intermingled. You had black businesses doing very well. You see, we had 2 banks back there, see, and black people did. See, it was a man named Douglas down on Broadway had a bank, and there was a man named Hendricks had a bank up on Cotton Avenue.
Did you get a chance to meet Mr. Douglas?
Oh, yes. Sure, I knew Mr. Douglas. Oh, he was a tall, you know, tall fella. I mean, he's a distinguished-looking gentleman. He put up things first class. He made the best of what he had, you see. So that's what it was. He took care of business. When you take care of business, business takes care of you.